Good morning, Morai Rabotai. We are continuing on Mesechet Avodah Zarah, and we are on top of Nun Gimel Amud Bet. Today's Amud is being learned for Refuah Shelema of Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid, that should have a full recovery, Refuah Shelema Bezrat Hashem, and for Refuah Shelema of Sarah Bat Nora, and the Hatzlacha of Yigal Ben Avraham as well. It should be Matzliach in all his endeavors. So we are going to go back just 3-4 lines to the last line of Nun Gimel Amud Aleph. A quick review. The Gemara said, Tanu Rabbanan Lavalea Oshenafla Lam Mapolit. There are certain cases that it's not considered a bitul of Avodah Zarah, even though that seems like the goy left his Avodah Zarah, neglected his Avodah Zarah, still not considered bitul Avodah Zarah. It doesn't constitute that he nullified his idol. And examples of them are if he left the idol as collateral to borrow money against it as a guarantor, that's not considered nullifying the Avodah Zarah. Or nafla alea mapolet, imagine a wall fell on the idol, and he didn't bother going and excavating, taking the idol out, just left it there. Seems like he's ignoring it. Seems like neglecting the Avodah Zarah. Still is not considered bitul Avodah Zarah. Or if it was stolen by thieves and he didn't bother going and inquiring about it, trying to look for it, still not considered bitul Avodah Zarah. Or a case that the Baalim left this Avodah Zarah, they left town and they left the Avodah Zarah there without taking it along with them. Of course, the Gemara says, Im atidin lachazor kemilchemet Yehoshua. If they are planning to come back at some point, like milchemet Yehoshua. Now the Gemara is going to ask, well, Yehoshua, when he fought the 31 kingdoms, this is talking about a specific one account of those battles that Yehoshua fought in the conquest of Eretz Yisrael. But generally speaking, when Yehoshua was fighting to conquer Eretz Yisrael, the Goyim never came back. He, Baruch Hashem, was successful in the 7 initial years to defeat all of the kingdoms of Eretz Canaan. So the Gemara is going to ask that question. But nevertheless, if the mindset is that they're going to come back, even though that they, meanwhile, are neglecting that Avodah Zarah, they didn't take the statue with them on their out-of-country, out-of-town trip, still that would not constitute a nullification of the Avodah Zarah, and hence it still is considered Avodah Zarah. It still is going to be Asur B'Hana'ah. So why do you have to give me all these cases? The Gemara is going to ask. Just give me one. Why do you have to say all of these examples? So Gemara says, Saricha. We need all of them because it's step by step, and without each one of them, I would not necessarily know it, trying to deduce from other cases. And the Gemara tries to explain. Because if it would say the case of guarantor, that you're putting the idol to borrow money against it, I would say, well, of course that's not considered bitul Avodah Zarah, because you love it, you want it. Now you're falling on hard times, so you have to put it there to borrow money. But of course you're going to plan to give back the money and embrace your Avodah Zarah once again. So that's not considered necessarily disrespect to the Avodah Zarah. But if the wall falls on Avodah Zarah and the guy doesn't even care to go and take it out, that's considered neglecting. It says the Gemara, and even in that case, if you would tell me just nafla alea mapolit, and that the wall fell on it, that's not considered nullification of Avodah Zarah, I would have thought Mishum de savar hamanchat kol emad ba'inala shakilnala. That's because the person does not feel an urgency to go take it right now. His Avodah Zarah is sitting there on the bottom of the rubble. Whatever has happened, nothing more is happening to it now. And whenever I need it, I'll go take it. Now he's busy, so therefore hasn't gotten around to it. But that's not disrespect. He didn't put the rubble on it. The wall fell, and he's been busy. So therefore he hasn't gone to take it. But the next case of the Gemara is a bigger chidush. Aval ganvu alistim, but if it was stolen from you, and you don't even care, and this is time sensitive, if you don't go after it right away, it's gone. It's going to be gone forever. And he doesn't even care to go inquire about the Avodah Zarah, try to get it back, try to find who stole it and who has it to take it back. That already is considered a much higher level of disrespect and neglection, and therefore maybe that would have been considered bitul of Avodah Zarah. Hence the Gemara has to say that even that case is not considered bitul of Avodah Zarah. So says the Gemara, and said the Gemara, Sricha, you also need to say all the other ones, and you couldn't just say the last case and say, well, let me tell you the case of stolen Avodah Zarah, and from the fact that you see that even if my Avodah Zarah gets stolen, that still does not constitute bitul, I will know all the other cases, right? He says, no, you can't do that either. If the Gemara would only tell us the case of stolen Avodah Zarah, Mishum de Savar, it's very simple why it's not considered bitul. Because think to yourself, you have this golden statue. It's worth at least $50,000. So somebody stole it. What do you think they're going to do with it? They're not going to melt it because it brings it down from value. They're going to sell it because it's a golden statue. It's a very valuable thing. A silver statue, even if it's a stone, whatever it is, it's something of high value. So what do you do when you steal something that is of high value? You're not going to disrespect it. You're going to sell it. Who are you going to sell it to? Says the Gemara, Mishum de Savar, he's thinking in his mind, well, my Avodah Zarah is in good hands. Because I'ovet Kochavim Shakila, who's going to pay for it? Right? If a goy who is himself an Avodah Zarah, if he is going to buy it, so Miflach Balachla, he's going to serve it. Gishmak. And if Israel takes it, Israel Shaklala, so says the Gemara, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to sell it for 2-3x in black market. Why do you think he's buying it? He's going to sell it to another Ovet Kochavim, and he's going to serve it. So either way, this is going to be ending up in good hands of a good Ovet Kochavim again. So I'm not so concerned about disrespect to my Avodah Zarah. Yeah, I lost some money, but the fact that I'm not running around like a chicken without a head to save the respect of my deity is because I know it's going to end up in the hand of another fool, another idiot that's going to be serving Avodah Zarah. So says the Gemara, but if the owners left it and they left town, I would have thought maybe that is considered complete neglecting of the Avodah Zarah, because if you lavdil alfei havdalot, if you leave town, you take your tefillin with you, right? That if something is your emunah, you gotta take it with you. So the fact that they just left it there, that was not one of the first things they packed in their luggage, that may be considered a complete bitul and neglecting of the Avodah Zarah. Therefore, kamash malan, the Gemara is coming to teach us that even that is not. You need a certain level of disrespect to the or rejection to the Avodah Zarah for it to be considered bitul. None of these cut it. None of these are considered bitul Avodah Zarah, and hence they are still going to be asur b'hana.
Can a new goy who bought it also do a bitul on it, or do we need the first goy who owned it?
No, if the new owner is mebatel, that is fine too, right? Says the Gemara. So we said, as the last part of this braita, that if the goyim are going to come back, like the time of Yehoshua, like Milchemet Yehoshua, like the wars of Yehoshua, then it's not batel. The Gemara says, wait a second, you got your history wrong. Milchemet Yehoshua Meitar Hadur. Who came back alive from Milchemet Yehoshua? Yehoshua completely defeated. None of the goyim went back home to their Avodah Zarah. They were all defeated. So therefore, when you say like Yehoshua, that's not a correct example. Says the Gemara, correct, I know that. Im atidin lachzor harehu kemilchemet Yehoshua. If they are planning to come back, these goyim who are leaving their Avodah Zarah, that would be like Milchemet Yehoshua, not exactly equivalent of Milchemet Yehoshua, because in Milchemet Yehoshua, Taka, they did not come back, but they were planning to come back. The Canaanites that went to war with Yehoshua, they were very hopeful that they are going to come back. They didn't leave their homes thinking that they're going to die. They left their homes thinking they're going to be victorious and come back to their idols. Again, all the milchamot of Yehoshua were miraculously won. Obviously starting with Milchemet Yericho, that it didn't even end up being a real war, even though that Yericho was perhaps the most impregnable city of the entire Malchut Canaanim in Eretz Yisrael, because the walls is first of all built on top of a hill. So it started with a ditch. You cannot climb, and then there was a tall wall, and it was as wide as it was tall. People lived inside the wall, and on top, that's how massive the walls were. The Rachav Azorah lived in the wall. So it was completely impossible. And yet, what happened? 7 days, they went around, Hakafot, Shofar, boom, the whole wall fell outward, even though they should have fell inward, and he made a ramp between the ditch and the ground, and the people went completely with ease up and inside, and the city fell within minutes. So it was miraculous, but the Goyim didn't think that they're going to lose like that. So therefore, whoever has that mindset that I'm going out of town, I'm going to come back, even though that for the meanwhile they are leaving their Avodah Zarah, that's not considered neglecting, that's not considered bitul of Avodah Zarah. But still, the question is, why do you have to even bring Yehoshua into this? Just say if they're planning to come back. Like, you have to do it backwards. Says the Gemara, that question. Why do you have to hinge it on the wars of Yehoshua? It has nothing to do. No makesher. Says the Gemara, miltakav orcha kamashmalan. He's coming to teach you a side point over here. The side point is Kihad Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. We learned in the name of Rav Yehuda teachings of Rav. Yisrael shezakaf levena leishtachavod la. Imagine if a yid prepares anything to make it an Avodah Zarah. In case he is a brick, and he wants to serve it. He hasn't done it yet, but his mindset is this brick is going to be a getchka Avodah Zarah, and then he goes and a goy comes and bows to it. Then does that become asur or not? So now let's take a step back. If a goy comes and takes my levena, my brick, and starts kissing it and bowing to it and bringing korbanot for it, and does that become asur or not? Absolutely not. Why? Because it's mine. En adam oser davar she'eino shelo. You cannot prohibit something that doesn't belong to you. It's mine. You can't make my thing asur without my permission. That's pashut. All the things that we learned before are talking about things that do not belong to somebody else. My own things that I could make asur. But says the Gemara, if I set this up to be an Avodah Zarah, I didn't do it yet, and then the goy comes and bows to it, now it's asur. Why? Because I showed that I am okay with this being Avodah Zarah. So even though that he cannot decide to make my thing asur, if he has a check from me that I'm nichale, right, I'm okay with it, then he can actually make it asur. Where do you learn this from? Says the Gemara, Yisrael shezakaf levena leishtachavot la, a Jew that puts a brick up to make it an Avodah Zarah, uba'u vet kochavim veishtachava la, and a goy comes and bows to it, asara. The goy has made it now asur. Menalan. How do we know that that works? Says the Gemara, Amar Belazar, K'tchila shel Eretz Yisrael. It's like the beginning of our residence in Eretz Yisrael. And the Amar Rachmana, the Hashem said, Ve'asharem tisrefum ba'esh, you should burn all of the worshipped trees in Eretz Canaan. When you go to Eretz Yisrael, in the process of the conquest, Asharem tisrefum ba'esh, Asharem tikadeun, you have to destroy all the Avodah Zarahs. So it says, well, wait a second. I have a practical, fundamental question on this. How in the world did anything in Eretz Yisrael become Avodah Zarah to begin with? Who does Eretz Yisrael belong to? Us. Right? It's very timely. Michdi, Yerusha ilahem avotehem. This is our inheritance from Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It's ours. Ve'en adam oseh davar she'eno shelo. Gemara takes this very literally. That it's mine. You cannot make something that's mine asur. How does anything become asur in Eretz Yisrael? Ve'imishum alach de'mikara, and if it's because of the things that were before Avraham, be'bitul ba'al masagilu. You know, with a little bitul, that would be sufficient. Listen to this. You know when it became asur? When the Jews in next week's parsha did Egel HaZahav, they showed that it's not so terrifying, it's not so horrible. It was nichalehu. They're okay with it. Oh, the owner is okay with it. Now if the goy makes Avodah Zarah, the item, even though that doesn't belong to him, it belongs to him, it still becomes asur because the owner showed that he is nichalehu, he's okay with it. Galu atayhu, the nichalehu ba'avodat kochavim, they showed that they are okay with avodat kochavim. Vechiatu of the kochavim shelichuta didhu avdi, and when the goyim are creating this avodah zarah, they are doing the shlichut of the Jews. They're doing the agency of the Jews, of the owner himself. And therefore, it will become asur. Gemara says, therefore, a Jew that designated a brick to make it an avodah zarah, and he didn't get the chance to do it, and a goy came and did it, it becomes asur. Because the Jew now shows that he's okay with avodat kochavim. And when the goy comes and does it, he shows that he's doing the shlichut of the Jew, and therefore he makes it asur. And wait a second. Maybe Jews only wanted to serve Egel HaZahav because Egel HaZahav was a miraculous of a thing, right? Tavnit shor ochel esev. The Tehillim says this was eating, walking, talking, saying Anochi Hashem Elokecha Asher Hotzeticha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. He was saying all of the Aseret HaDibrot. Lo yeh lecha Elohim acherim al panai. That's Lo tisa et Shem Hashem Elokecha lashav. Imagine that, right? This was no ordinary thing. So maybe only this they did. Okay, Jews, if they do Avodah Zarah, also has to be sophisticated. But who says that they're going to chop off a wood and burn half of it for shish kebab, and the other half they're gonna bow to and say, "Who created me?" They're not gonna do that. They're not, they're not that level of imbecile. So says the Gemara. Maybe they don't believe in any other avodah. Maybe only Egel Hazav they were okay with. First white line. Amar Kara, Ele Elohecha Yisrael, Asher Hotziucha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. The pasuk says otherwise. Unfortunately, it doesn't say Ze Elohecha Yisrael. It says Ele, these, a plural form. And Chazal learned from that. Melamed she'ivu le'elohut harbe. Unfortunately, when they got involved with Avodah Zarah, they became so attached to it that they desired all kinds of Avodah Zarah at the moment. So, Ema kol debehade egel nitzeru mikan ve'elach nishtri. I says, okay, that's fine, but that's only for a short period of time. Maybe all the things that are with Egel at the time of Egel should be Asur. But all the things afterwards for the 40 years should be Mutar. And says the Gemara, correct, maybe that's correct. But Man Muchach, who knows which Avodah Zarah was built when? So therefore when you come in and you conquer Eretz Yisrael, everything should be Asur. Well, there's a lot to be talked about this. Because first of all, we had a second account of Avodah Zarah, of communal Avodah Zarah, of Baal Peor, at the very end of the journey through the Midbar. And also, this whole thing of Shlichut is very ambiguous, because is this really Shlichut? The Goy doesn't have Shlichut. You can't have a din of Shlichut and Shlichut la'akum. And this is actually a fascinating topic. The very famous, perhaps the most famous, Tshuva of the Nodab Yehuda Rabbi Yechezkel Landau in Mesechet Avodah Zarah is related to this daf Nun Gimel Amud Bet, the famous Tshuva of Nodab Yehuda that we mentioned several times so far, that the Shituf for Goyim is considered Avodah Zarah. Christianity, for instance, according to Halacha, is that for Goyim themselves. Is that considered the Oved Avodah Zarah? Someone that believes in Hashem, but also believes in other things in conjunction with Hashem, right? A Trinity, a Catholicism, and so on. Is that considered Avodah Zarah or not? Which there are those shitos of the poskim based on the Tosafot that they believe that it's not considered Avodah Zarah for the Goyim themselves. No, Rabbi very vehemently disagrees with that, and if he feels that it's pashut that for Goyim also is considered Avodah Zarah, it's only for one sliver of a halachic reality that is not considered full Avodah, but Avodah Zarah certainly is considered. That is this tshuva in Nodab Yehuda Siman Kuf Memchet. But the premise of the tshuva really revolves around this Gemara of the Goyim being the shaliach, the agents of Yidden to do Avodah Zarah. A fascinating topic, a little bit beyond the scope of our talk right now. But another very interesting thing is Eretz Yisrael belonging to the Jews from before, already from time of Avraham Avinu. This is something that in the journey through Chazal, you find contradicting facts about this. For instance, one simple one is two Rashis that everybody knows, right? The Rashi by Lot and Rashi by Mesechet, by the Kvura of Sarah Imenu, seem to completely contradict each other. How so? Rashi says by the division, the separation of Lot and Avraham Avinu, that the Ro'eh Avraham and Ro'eh Lot, the shepherds of Avraham and Lot, got into a fight. Why? Because shepherds of Avraham noticed that the shepherds of Lot, they were grazing their flocks on grounds of other people, on fields of other Canaanites. And they said, you're doing gezel. Benoach tadas gezel, even a shaveh peruta hayav mitah. And they said, no, it belongs all to us. Why? Because Avraham Avinu doesn't have a son. And his only Yoresh, his only heir, is going to be Lot. and Hashem gave Eretz Yisrael to Abraham. So do the math. This belongs to Abraham. Abraham doesn't have a son. It's going to end up by us, so we could use it, right? And they don't know, say Chazal, that HaKenaani az Yoshev Ba'aris, that they are now the inhabitants of the land, because it still has not been given to Abraham. The promise has been, but that hasn't been given. The Rashi everyone knows, right? Second Rashi is when Abraham Avinu wants to bury Sarah Imenu, comes to Mesechet, and the first thing he says to them is, Ger v'toshav anochi imachem. I'm a ger v'toshav with you, right? And Rashi says, brings the Chazal, that if you want, I'll be a ger. That means, if you want to sell it to me, I'll be like a stranger. I pay top dollar for whatever he's saying, right? Over la socher, I pay the price, I get it. If you want to be difficult and not sell it to me, then I will be a toshav. Then I'll take it minadin, because it has been given to me. It's mine anyways. I'm willing to pay for it, but it is mine. So either way I'm going to get it. Which seems to completely indicate, not like what we just mentioned in Rashi, in the previous Rashi, seems to indicate that Eretz Yisrael actually did halachically belong to Avraham Avinu, even in his own chai chayuto, in his own time when he was alive, and that contradicts that. Of course, our Gemara seems to indicate that it did belong to Avraham Avinu already from the time of the promise, and therefore it has a halachic nafkamina for people not being able to make anything an Avodah Zarah without showcasing that the Jews actually would want that to happen, which is our sugya, again, a fascinating talk. So that's basically our Mishnah. The next Mishnah, Be'ezrat Hashem, we will continue in the days to come.